In your hands, you hold a brand new copy. The cover features a charming illustration depicting a mass of the exact location and time period are left deliberately vague, but it's clearly meant. The box has a nice heft to it. You hear the rattle of individual what treasures wait. Even before you open it, you can tell that this will be a meaty game of grand strategy and the plastic wrap rips off as easily. There's a hiss as the lid slides off. Inside, you find a thick, full-color rulebook and more than a dozen pouches. Welcome to Suzerainty, a game of economic strategy for the whole family. The instructions are opaque at first. You soon figure out the basic conceit. Each player represents an administrator for the suzerain of Revachol. Your objective is to increase. That's where the suzerain's vassals come in. The game features each turn, the player collects resources from vassals where they've placed workers. They may then rearrange their workers. As you leaf through the pages, your eye catches on it. Remember, there are many paths to victory in Suzerainty, but successful play. The actual scoring system appears infinitely complex, with a series of tables and appendices required. You open up a number of pouches containing wooden tokens. There are also several punch boards with other cardboard components that will need to be punched out. Each cardboard token makes a satisfying as you pop.
What? You're not going to offer to let me punch any of them out?
In addition to the worker and building tokens used by each player, there are also several parts from the Empire of Safre, orange apricot tokens, from Ilmarat, the ancestral.
Oh, those are nice.
You hold the open game box. The lieutenant looks over the rulebook.
Holy shit. I'm not sure we can afford to set aside that kind of time for a game.
What is detective work if not an elaborate game? You need logical inference, attention to detail, the ability to
I do feel like my thinking has become somewhat...
See? He's doing the hard work himself.
Alright, you've convinced me. How do we play?
You explain the basic setup procedures to the lieutenant, who seems to be... In the center is the crown of Revachol. Radiating outward are apricots from Safre, archaeological treasures from Ilmarat, sugars from the Seminine Islands. There's also a neat little log to keep track of your progress. In case the lieutenant goes first. He draws a contract card and moves. You have a few options available to you. Will you try to fulfill contracts right away? Remember what the rulebook said. You'll want to choose a strategy early on and stay committed to it. What is the very beginning of the game? Your workers haven't even done any work yet. That's more like it. You produce a handful of archaeological treasures and meanwhile, the lieutenant spends 2 of his sugar and 1 of his apricot.
That's a market. It's worth 2 victory points. Don't worry, it was mostly just luck. You'll earn some points soon enough. Points are nothing. They don't exist. They're just an arbitrary convention that games use to reward or punish players for certain... Now, I believe it...
Glancing over the board, you see several possible strategies. Pressing more workers into service would increase your economic output and help you to survive a possible conflict with... Those aren't your own. You could also show your workers how much you appreciate them by investing some of that wealth in them. After all, well, sure, you can do that. It's just not a terribly effective strategy, but then it's up to you. Using your powers of persuasion. After several turns, your worker tokens greatly outnumber the lieutenants. A vast army of expendable labor is at your command.
Too bad investing in your worker. Take a look at the scoring tables in the back. You see in Table 8C that investing in territorial infrastructure multiplies your final victory point total by 1, which is to say not at all. Whereas erecting monuments in Revachol gives you a multiplier of 5. Yes, precisely.
Nonsense. Remember what the lieutenant said. If points are... Now it's the lieutenant's turn to respond. He moves aggressively onto the Safre territory. Soon, for several turns, you struggle to respond to the lieutenant's burgeoning apricot empire. Eventually, you relocate the majority of your workers to... You draw a new contract card. According to the text, there's an aristocrat willing to trade a large supply of cocaine for a number of coins and access. You know, this isn't unlike the situation the historical Revacholian suzerainty faced in Safre in the middle of the last Well, the suzerain was looking for new markets for all the cocaine it was producing, and it settled by introducing cocaine into Safre under exclusive contract. The suzerain created an extremely valuable captive market for an extremely addictive product. If you could somehow get the lieutenant's workers addicted to your cocaine, you could not only make them less productive, yes, you can. You've reached a critical strategic juncture. How do you respond to the lieutenant's aggression? With each passing turn, you slowly bleed the lieutenant of coins as his own. As a matter of historical fact, this is almost exactly what happened in Safre. To this day, fully half of the former Safre Empire remains dependent on international aid in exchange for a steady...
More or less.
Realizing victory is slipping away, the lieutenant launches a desperate gambit: protectionism. By erecting tariffs, the end game is upon you. Do you escalate the trade war with the... or do you ignore his aggression and focus on building the might? Alternatively, you could throw the whole game away by trying to build a public education. The choice is yours. There's a reason very few players ever attempt to build a public education system for their workers. Your boondoggle nearly bankrupts the suzerain's treasury.
Ouch.
The lieutenant opens his mouth, as if to issue...
You know, detective, there's something admirable. Now, let's tally up.
Computing the final scores is almost a game unto itself. You each spend an inordinate... After double, then triple checking -5 victory points. You be...
I've got 20 points. Well, there's always next time. Figuratively, I mean. Now, let's clean up and get back to...
You hold the open game box before you.